man, how you doing?
Hey man, I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. Finally, this is the first episode in which I get to talk to someone face to face. Don't worry, we're still adhering to SOP rules. We're still respecting the fact that COVID is still here, not touching.
We're still sitting 1 meter away from each other, so no worries about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bobby Rose. Welcome to the Music Talks podcast, and I'm here with my very, very good friend that I consider my go-to research buddy in the music department in UPM, Chan Long.
Hi, my name is Chan Long, and look, it's my greatest pleasure to be part of this podcast, and I'm very, very excited to be talking with Bobby about the topic that we are going to share with you guys today.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
That's a good question. So I thought normally the host would bring out the question.
That's a very good point. So I just want to start off, as I've explained to the listeners a lot of times, that this podcast is mainly created for the purposes of allowing the juniors or people who don't really know what to do in their studies, after their studies. Yeah. So I've interviewed people like our friends, our seniors. Some of them teach in prisons. Some of them do recording. Some of them do performances, vocal performances. And last week I was talking to somebody who works very closely with a lot of different ensembles, doing arrangement and compositions. Yeah. So the reason I want to talk to you is because you actually do music, ethnomusicology, sociology stuff, right? Yeah. And so tell me about that. What is it? What's the title of your research? What's your study? And what's the full explanation of it?
So basically what I did for my final year project is actually a research that at first I started off from having this question about how messages are being represented through a song, and then slowly it evolves into what I did for my research. So it's basically how a construct message of a song changes through time, because I actually looked at a very popular song that once brought many controversies with it, and that song got everyone's attention back then when it was first released, because it was so special and it was so raw in a sense. Actually, it's a parody of some sort, and it has some very upfront messages, yet it contains many of the sarcasm inside the lyrics, and that's the thing where the song managed to capture many people's attention, especially among the younger ones. And it's been around 11 or 12 years since it was first released, and the thing I want to see is how people understand about this song and what this song mean for the people through time. You know, back then maybe people see it as very fresh kind of genre, at least in Malaysia, to voice out what they have been hiding deep in their heart. And right now, the meaning of the song for the people actually shifted from expressing how they feel deep inside, to the people going back to the song because they have something they want to express, and this song is actually a landmark of change. It represents a landmark of change to the people, because at first this song meant the kind of message that it was trying to express is it was asking for change. And right now, when there is a change that is happening, people would refer back to this song, like they will listen to this song again as a way of like commemorating the changes that has been happening lately, especially in the country. So yeah, this is what my research was about, and actually it amazes me a lot, like seeing how the very drafted idea from the start changes to what is it, what it has become in the later stage of the research, and being able to prove to match the theories that I have been studying is about the changes from Hall. It's actually by it is a theory by Stuart Hall. Is shift from intentional representation to constructionist representation. So it means the song itself, it has an intention. To a point, the meaning of the song is being constructed through time.
Differently through time. And I just gotta say to all you listeners out there, we can't openly say the name of the song just for copyright infringement purposes, and we want to try to avoid that.
Yeah.
And I would just love to just talk shop here, just park the topic right here and just, spend 5 hours talking about this, because we have talked hours about your research. But, that's not the topic of this podcast. We can after this. Don't worry about it.
All right.
So I just wanted to find out, what did you summarize for all the listeners out there? Because we do want to know what you actually find from these kind of things.
So actually, it's conclusion of the research. Actually, it shows how people see a song, and how the meaning, the discourse around the song is being constructed over time, and the meaning shifted from A to a point to later time. It becomes A plus B plus C plus B plus D. So basically, it has different layers of meaning being added up to the song. So in order to properly understand the song, you have to look through the timeline of the song's existence, and along the timeline, you will see how the background of the song changes, and how people change their view on the song, and the what this song actually mean for the people. It changes over time.
But is that more of a cultural thing? Are you talking about the same group of people? Because you did mention just now it's the younger generation versus the old generation. So is it like the younger generation grew up with a different perspective, different mindset, so they could have had a different understanding of the song?
Yes, correct. Because maybe when a song has some very direct and a little bit explicit lyrics inside it, I gotta admit, as a kid myself, when I first listened to the song, I thought, oh, this song has some cool beat to it, and it was one of the very first few songs that I actually listened to containing vulgar languages in a song. So it's something very new to me back then, but as time goes, the way I understand this song changes over time, and slowly I start to appreciate the kind of effort that this songwriter put into has placed into the lyrics writing, and the way he shaped the lyrics is actually very interesting, because some of the lyrics used, if you are a non-Malaysian, for example, you wouldn't understand some of the terms that are being used inside, because it's a very localized language. Yeah, so it's like you need a shared code in order to properly understand the song.
Yeah. In your personal perspective, how could this be translated into a real world setting?
Right, actually, the way I see it is that I really hope that the readers of my research would slowly understand that a song could have its meaning, like the discourse about the music. Actually, it would shift from about the music to outside of the music itself. And maybe this could help people to understand that actually music itself is not as simple as, or it's just lines of melodies and lines of lyrics that are being like very blatantly obvious and direct. For songs like This Is America, for example, it has very many hidden meanings and like the messages that Childish Gambino tries to express, but not in a very obvious way. So this could actually encourage people to look into songs of this kind of genre to give them more attention to it and to not overlook the kind of potential this kind of music could express. Yeah.
Awesome. And do you think that this is a very, very pertinent topic to bring up for students undergoing their music programs? If not at primary school, if not at high school, like taking SPM with music, do you think it's important to actually talk to students about not just, okay, for example, a lot of students, like, undeniably, they will go through Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Tchaikovsky, Do you think it's important to, at the top of my head, talk about Tchaikovsky's music and how it actually relates to the patriotism of Russians? How his 1812 overture is not really a story of, nationalism, but it's specifically Russian fascism, for example. Is it actually important? But yeah, what do you think?
Actually, the thing is, I start to notice that this kind of music, the example that I brought up just now, This Is America, this kind of music actually existed for quite some time. And the reason why these artists like doing this kind of music is because they have something that they want to express, but they don't feel like expressing it in a very direct way. So they have while they have a message they want to express, they give them some very artistic value into this message, so that it's not only about the message itself, but it's also the value of the musical elements that is together as a set with a message,
Yeah, I know. It's just that me personally, I know how you really enjoy and appreciate lo-fi music.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find that balance between song messages from the lyrics and the musical elements, because lo-fi music doesn't have lyrics.
Yeah.
So is there still a message in those non-verbal lyrics?
So that's actually a very interesting point, because the way I see music itself, because music is not a medium that strictly used only for entertainment purposes. It's an art. For example, you have drawings or like just a work of art. You can go all the way from like just sketches or the magazine illustrations, all the way until to, like, for example, Da Vinci's Mona Lisa. So art itself, it has many ways of expression, and it depends on the level of expression that you want to put into it, and it gives different values. For example, you don't really see magazine illustrations being on exhibitions and stuff, like, and people put up the time to go and delineate the meaning behind the illustration. Yeah, that's that actually applies to music itself. Like some music, they're designed just for like passive listening, for example, and some music, they actually served active, like it's for active listening in order to properly understand, like to appreciate the message or the artistic value that has been put into crafting this particular music.
Yeah, but when that's the line that I'm trying to tread on, because you say it really makes sense about the message, about the appreciation of it, but then up to the artistic value. So when you say artistic value or aesthetical values, that means it's on the so how do you understand that some people call their pieces dexterity? What does that mean? All of me. But there's no melody, there's no words in there. It doesn't say dexterity. So, and this is all Charlie Parker pieces, and ornithology. But how does this set of melodies, for him at least, translate as the word dexterity, ornithology, Donna Lee? Does he actually look at a person named Donna Lee and put the first thing he thinks about? So that's the challenge for it, I would say. And do you think, maybe this is quite a controversial topic, but it's just open for debate, would Malaysian students at least be appreciative of these kind of discussions? Because we just had a conversation where some students would just do things that their teachers or their lecturers would tell them to do, and they aren't allowed to ask about it. So do you think that they will actually put efforts into these kind of works to actually, like you said, disseminate the information that is embedded within the work of arts? Or would they just take it as face value, no matter how hard you try to explain to them?
Actually, it's not only the kind of music, the genre of music that I mentioned earlier, but even for the classical music that used to, we listen when we first, for example, started our musical music lessons. We will almost always get exposed to the classical music, but the thing is, we are not really taught to fully appreciate the background of the music itself. At least from my experience and from my observations, here in Malaysia, the way music education is done is like, we listen to a piece of music, or like, for example, a piano piece. We just listen to other people's playing, and then we follow to the score, and we try to imitate how the player, the pianist has played in the recording, and try to mimic the way they play. Actually, this is a debate that has been going on for the longest time ever. Like the authenticity of a play, the interpretation of a music. Is it important, or should we stay true to the original piece? Or is there actually any originality to a piece of music? Because we know that there are no actual recordings of, like, for example, Beethoven playing Moonlight Sonata back then, So the way that we can reliably interpret the message is through the song, the piece of music is through the famous pianist playing, or just by understanding the score. That this itself is actually already a debate for the scholars. About whether you need to stay as faithful as possible to the original piece music, or should you add on your interpretation into the score itself. But this kind of mindset only started to root into me when I entered university. And the thing is, I realized that there is a problem in the music education here in Malaysia, is that they put a lot of effort in preparing the student for performance, and not necessarily get them get their knowledge, as well prepared as their performance readiness. So this might be a problem where kids who learn music, they don't necessarily appreciate the value of music. So in my opinion, I think that the problem now here in music education is that at least in Malaysia is that there's a lacking in teaching of the music appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
We are mostly taught to be able to play a piece of music and go for an exam, get the cert, and then head on to the next level, and like just try to get us climb as far up as possible, and that's it. You know, sometimes we would even ask ourselves, like, what are we doing this for? You know, it's not necessarily get us ready for like performances or gigs. It's just for the sake of the cert.
Yeah.
You know, the cert itself is being seen as a more valuable thing as compared to the performances that we do.
Yeah, the knowledge, the goal becomes the certification itself rather than the knowledge you gain behind it, the artistry, the mastery of this instrument or multiple instruments for that matter.
Yes,
being
correct.
And I actually, that was a good point that you made about the music education, and you even, thank you for even tapping into your past life, which is what I wanted to ask. When did you start? You said you studied in university, right? Did it ever occur to you to think about these things in your primary school, in your high school? Or are you saying this based on your experience as well? Are you saying that you are one of those people? Which is not a problem, because I feel like a lot of people, it happens to a lot of people, and it takes people like us, you know, to actually step out of the system and realize, oh, this is a problem to fix. So,
actually, this is based on my personal experience, but I do realize that when I entered university, and I noticed actually among my peers, except for those who have taken diploma before entering university for bachelor's degree, most of us actually are not really prepared. You know, we only have a very minimum knowledge amount of knowledge about the, let's say, the history of music, and unless you do your own research, actually it's not really being taught in the syllabus that we have taken, like when we were having our music education back then. So that's a problem. It's not part of the syllabus, and I noticed actually many of my peers who are doing music education right now, this is not part of their focus, and it's I would say this is not their fault, but it's more like this is something that the parents expected. You know, like they expect the kids to be able to play like fantasy impromptu. Like they expected their kids to be able to play this kind of music pieces, but whether they know about Chopin and how he's unable to compose orchestra symphonies pieces, like this kind of knowledge are not really being shared or being taught explicitly in the class, unless like we happen to have a conversation about this kind of history. Then we'll be told about this kind of trivial facts. But in the syllabus, we in music education that we get, most of the time we just follow the syllabus, and this knowledge are not being focused or emphasized in as part of the syllabus itself.
And it's sad, because then they only get it, going back to the first thing that we were talking about just now, they only get it from the aesthetical point of view. The aesthetics, just on the surface. And I just wanted to ask, since we're here, you know, relating to all this music education, what do you think about, is it only about performance thing? There was this amazing violinist, Kaori Miyazono. She passed away, not recently, I'm not sure when, but she passed away from cancer. And she's not a prodigy when it comes to playing violin, but she's a great violin player. But her problem was that she doesn't like being under that shadow. So what happened was, one of the famous stories about her was that she played Mozart's, was it Mozart's Kutzer number 2 or something like that, but it's not at all Mozart. It's like the listeners were like, wait, this is not even Mozart. Is she playing in a Bach way? No, she's playing in a Beethoven way, very angry. No, she's very, but it's not. It's just her way.
Yeah.
And you know, some would argue that is a jazz perspective, you know?
Yeah.
Like what you talked about, everybody has to play the notes exactly right according to, like, if you don't know what Bach sound like in his cello suite, so you refer to Yo-Yo Ma, and if you don't know Yo-Yo Ma's version, then you listen to Michał Majski, or he moves it this way or that way. In the end, you would still be under the shadow of that player.
Yes.
So what do you think about it? Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? Because the thing about this Kaori Miyazono, she never, I don't know if she never did, but she just rarely doesn't win competitions because she doesn't play according to the score. Not because of wrong notes, wrong melody, wrong rhythm. It's just wrong style. So what do you think about that?
Actually, thanks for sharing about that. This reminds me a lot about Lang Lang. When I first watched his playing of La Campanella.
If you don't mind, can you just share a bit about who Lang Lang is for the listeners that do not know?
Yeah, so Lang Lang is actually a very famous pianist from China, and he's considered as one of the most famous pianists in the world right now. And he plays a lot of the very virtuosic pieces, and one of the pieces I would like to share that he played in one of his performances is La Campanella by Franz Liszt, and it's actually a very 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 challenging, very very virtuosic piece. And I've actually watched a few pianists that has played the same piece close to perfection, but if you are tedious enough, you may find, if you are thorough enough, you might find one or two mistakes, because it's a very very difficult and challenging piece. And the way Lang Lang played this piece in his performance, this sparked some debates as well, because he added some of his very own spins into the piece itself, which essentially changed the way that the piece sounds. And some of the viewers, they interpret it as his way of maybe avoiding the most difficult parts of the piece itself. But the way I see it is actually the audiences that he plays. Actually, I don't really see a problem in either Lang Lang's performance or the violinist that you talk about. What's the name again?
Kaori Miyazono.
Kaori Miyazono. There's nothing wrong with their playing. My understanding is that this is a kind of showmanship. This, of course, we are looking at the classical music playing, but when we look at the jazz playing, it's a completely different story. It's an opposite to the way people look at the classical playing, because classical playing, I think most of the audiences, they would expect you to play as similar as possible to the recordings that are playing in their mind, you know?
Yeah.
But in jazz, if you play the exact thing, the exact same thing to the one playing in their mind, you will be criticized for not adding your own spins to it.
Yeah.
So actually, it's about the kind of audiences that are watching that particular performances. Because to be honest, if you put the jazz audiences into listening to the version of La Campanella that Lang Lang played, they might receive it very positively.
Yeah.
But there is also a chance of them not accepting it, because it is a classical piece, you know. So I think this is should I consider it as a stereotype? You know, like it's a very very unchangeable kind of impression people have on classical music. So if you are playing a classical piece, then you should be playing in this way, and if you don't play according to the
How the score is.
to how the score is, then you're technically playing it basically playing it wrong.
Yeah.
According to the audiences. But the way I understand is that some composers, they do write specific like instructions in playing their music, but actually there are many of them, it's just the score that you can refer to. So
Yeah.
which one is the original that we are looking at?
Yeah.
So this might be something that like maybe you guys can think about, like which one is the original, and is the original even the original version that you are listening to?
Yeah.
So
is 70 cannons actually 70 cannons?
Yeah.
Or is that an exaggeration? Yeah.
And actually, in my opinion, this kind of like mindset people have on classical music or jazz music is actually part of the culture that we are looking at. You know,
Yeah.
the reason why they have this kind of culture, the reason why a culture is a culture itself, is because people have been doing it the same way.
Yeah.
So that's why in classical music they do have this kind of culture where like we play according to the original playing or like the original score. And in jazz playing we have this culture of improvising and or like quoting from other pieces, you know. So I think this all traces back to the culture that we are in, and this is going to be a debate that is not going to end.
Yeah.
I don't think this kind of debate is going to end, but as a music student, like who is finishing his very last semester, I grew to learn that actually that we should open our minds and accept as many different perspectives as possible, because music itself, it has endless possibilities. We can mix and match a few existing musical pieces and create and from these musical pieces that we combine, we can create a entirely new musical piece. So we shouldn't bind ourselves into a very fixed impression on a certain thing. We should always accept different varieties, you know, about one thing.
Yeah.
So that we can really create something that is totally different and no one has ever seen that before. This is what creativity is about, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you said that about it's not that I like it, it's just that it's very true what you said about those those kind of views towards the classical people.
Yeah.
That conventional. I would go as far to say it's a conservative view.
Yes.
Because it's always like you said, it's a discussion between the very very conservative mindset versus the very very liberal mindset, whereby we should actually just be in the middle.
Yes,
you
correct.
know. And the best response I've had to this was Dr. David Chin, Dr. Ang's friend. He actually gave a talk in class many months ago, way before COVID. He actually specializes. He has a doctorate in Bach studies, not classical, not Baroque, not Romantic, Bach studies. And once every 3 years, he would participate or perform. I don't know, participate as in perform or like administer or whatever.
Yeah.
Bach festivals in Leipzig in Germany.
Right.
It happens every 4 years or every 3 years, I can't remember. And he would always say like there's the standard conventional orchestra slot, the solo slot, the concerto slot, and then there's a jazz slot. So I was asking him like, what do you think about the jazz slots? And he was like asking me like, what example can you give? So just at the top of my head, This is the same semester that we took jazz theory at the top of my head. So imagine finishing off that last chord of Claire de Lune with it's in, if I'm not mistaken, it's in A flat major.
Okay.
Yeah. So imagine just having that last chord as an A flat major 9 flat 7, and I swear to you, he cringed and he just like looked away for 2 seconds, and then he asked, "What does it matter? How I see it? I might be revolted by it. Some people might consider it a perversion, because it's so individualized. It's so distorted from how it's originally supposed to be. But it's about you. So the conventional people that sees that's in the classical field, they would just think that it's a perversion. But he said, on top of that, there is still, I don't know, thousands of people that still went for that Bach jazz slot and watch, and he didn't even explain it to me because he doesn't even want to go. So that's fine. It's fine. But I think that's the important thing, is that it's fine.
Yeah.
How he sees it, how we see it. Yeah. And yeah, I really do agree with you. How just say that's really cool. How you think, be more open to different flavors.
Yes, correct.
Of these kinds of food. It's the same food, but it's different flavors that people add on to it.
Yeah.
And I respect that so much. And I feel like a lot of people, at least in Malaysia, I don't know, maybe it's our circle is so small, or it could be just repetitively the same people that we meet.
Yes,
but
actually,
it seems to be going around that, if you are wrong, then you're wrong. If you're right, then you're right.
Yeah.
And there's always these extreme views. Going to the last question I would ask in this podcast. What does this all mean for those juniors that realize that they can't really do much after their degrees, right? They find that maybe, I don't know, they're not as great as other performers, or they came in and they wanted to do performance, but then they realized, wait, music is so much more than this. So how do you think that this path would be allocated for these kind of people that want to go into music research? What should be the first thing that they look into? Change their mindsets, or read a lot?
Actually, instead of saying that, asking them to change their mindset, I would prefer to ask them to be more proactive in participating different musical events. And because actually, as a music student, we are always being given the very stereotypical impressions that, after we finish our degree, we are going to like either perform or like just be a music teacher, and that's all, and after we entered after we entered university, then only we realized that there's actually more to it.
Yeah.
So the advice that I would give is that try to make yourself get exposed to opportunities. And I think the musical events that are in Malaysia, it actually happens all the time. Like it ranges from like concerts, competitions. There are also like festivals, and like from big to small. You just don't ever lock yourself in a room just to practice for like tomorrow's lesson and stuff. The important thing is to get yourself like exposed to different areas, so that you could one day find that there is something that might suit your interests, and you would like to understand more, and probably this could be your career after you graduate. And I have to say, the things that I'm doing right now, I actually, before entering university, I imagined myself to be focusing more in the very production based career. But after my second year, taking part in an exchange program with a group of Japanese students from Kumamoto, Kyushu, it actually made me realize that actually doing research could be a possible career path for me as well, because in that particular program, we also do the things that we do on in a research, like we will come up with a problem statement. Before we take part, we will state about our views being living in a multicultural society, and after we state our problem statement, we will get distributed into a few different groups that are designated for students that are having the very similar problem statements.
Yeah.
And after having our problem statements done, we'll start doing research. We'll go have interviews with people on their views on
different topics.
And especially their opinions in living in a multicultural society. So after doing all this, and we came up with a presentation, and we came up with a conclusion and stuff. That actually made me realize that this is the kind of thing I actually enjoyed doing a lot. And so this is the way I discovered my interest in doing music research. So that's why I have to emphasize again, look for opportunities to take part in different events, so that even if you don't really feel that you have any particular interest, you don't have any interest in a very particular thing, by taking part in different events and like while at the same time establishing connections with other people, you may find your interest from either one of the events that you take part in. Actually, this is also how we discover our interest in the first place. You know, we don't really know our interest if we are being locked in a room for like 50 days or so after being born. You know, it don't come to us themselves. We need to go and find them.
Yeah, this isn't like Krypton where everybody has their predestined work or job in their life,
yeah. So we have to look for it. Like diamonds don't get themselves discovered. You know, we have to discover the diamonds. We have to dig up and examine. After all the tedious work, then only we discover, oh, this is a diamond. You know, yeah. So just go out and enjoy yourself. The schoolwork is not, of course, they should be prioritized, but you should also prioritize looking for your interest. Yeah, that's a very important part of studying in university in the first place, actually.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I just wanted to add on a bit about that. When you say like schoolwork should be prioritized, I think what a lot of people tend to overlook is that sometimes that schoolwork that you just overlook and just think, it's not that important. That could be the one.
Yeah.
You know? Like how you were talking about your HUTA program.
Yes.
At first, it could have just been one of those programs that you were pushed to go to.
Yes.
Of course, I know like you volunteered and you wanted to go. So that's great. But if the tables were turned and you were pushed to go, it could have still been the reason that you are where you are right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, that schoolwork might also be one of the paths that could lead to your future goals, future ambition. I don't know.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And you know, talking about schoolwork, that is also one particular subject that we have taken, the contemporary music language. That's the schoolwork that actually pushed us and made us discover our interest in like this very advanced chords.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is also the thing that actually motivated me a lot in learning about the different combination of chords and especially in the chord progressions. In its very, very core, it's actually very simple. It's all about 2-5-1s. It's a very basic chord progression, chord 2 to chord 5 to chord 1.
Yeah.
But from that very simple chord progression, it could actually mix up a lot of different ways, shaping up music. And that's actually what I learned from that subject, is that on top of 251, we can do a 251 on the 2 itself, you know?
Yeah.
Like what I said just now, like we take different existing things and mix it up to create a new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no joke, actually that class could have just like been summarized into, you enter the first class for 1 minute. Okay, so actually the whole topic is to just look for the concept of 251 in your score analysis. Thank you. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, if you do have anything that you want to ask or anything that you particularly don't agree with, you can shoot me an email at aminbob13@yahoo.com. My email will be in the description of this podcast. You could ask us questions. I can ask those questions to Chan Long in future episodes, or I can have him answer and relay it to you personally. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Chan Long, for being on this podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed today's session a lot.
Yeah.
So,
and I know for a fact that this is only like 10% of what we usually discuss.
yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bobby Rose, and thank you for listening.